So first, let's talk a little bit about what they are. So I would define feelings as the relationship between my nervous system and the story I'm telling myself about those sensations. Right? The relationship, our feelings are the relationship between our nervous system in the raw and the story we're telling ourselves about that data. Because everything we're experiencing right now is coming at us through, in Buddhism, we talk about the 6 senses, the sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing, and consciousness, in our awareness. So if it doesn't ding me, right, in one of those 6 places, if I can't hear it or see it or smell it and so on, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist. We know because of science that there are things out there that exist that we cannot perceive, electromagnetic radiation and such. Now, so we know enough to know that we're looking through a cocktail straw. That we have a very limited group of antennas with very limited perception capability. But that doesn't change the fact, no matter how limited our scope of perception is, that doesn't change the fact that that's it. It's very finite. And so, right, we're having this stimuli coming at us, everything that dings my nervous system, and then it goes into the central nervous system, right, the brain and the spinal cord, ultimately. And here in the brain, a story is formed. So I can be on a roller coaster that I enjoy, which is actually not true, but it's a very useful example. And be flushed, tight-chested, sweaty palmed, and call, right, those sensations in my nervous system, but be telling myself the story, excitement, joy, right? And then I'm in that feeling. But I can be, driving in the blizzard and have the exact same physical sensations, right? Flush, tightness, muscular tightness, sweaty palms, and I can be telling myself the story anxiety. You see? And so that's why I feel like if we want to talk about what a feeling is, we can't really say it's an idea or it's a bodily sensation, because it's both. Right? It's both. It starts in the body, right? The order is stimulus, sensation, story. Most of the time, because if I'm starting to get nervous, my palms are sweaty. And it's funny because I don't actually have sweaty palms. I'm using a lot of false examples today, a lot of fictitious examples. But if I did, my palms would be sweaty long before my brain trafficked in the word anxiety. Typically, that's how it works. It starts in the body. It rises up out of the body. And then the mind sort of from on high, if you will, notices what the body's experiencing and starts giving it a name and telling a tale. Now, of course, the opposite is also possible. If I'm sitting in a corporate waiting room, again, an example of I don't think I've ever done that in my entire life. I don't know why I'm giving fictitious examples, but I like it. Imagine I'm sitting in a corporate waiting room for a job interview. And I start telling myself the story as I'm sitting there, oh man, the guy next to me looks smarter, or I don't really know what I'm doing here, and this job's a bit outside of my expertise, and the interview looked kind of tired and grumpy when he came out and called for the last guy. I don't have to tell that story to myself for too long before my body will start to tense up, flush, and my palms will start to sweat. So we can produce the feeling in the other direction, but more typically in my experience, it starts from the ground up, right? It starts from the body. The body is the base. The body is our earth. And, you know, this relationship, right, as you can see, is full of fiction. If I can be experiencing the same set of things in my nervous system, but tell myself two completely different stories about it, well, then does that make sense to like really lean into and be like, well, that's good data. Let's think, speak, and act definitively right now. Let's take a huge decision based on this, right? Clearly, right? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And yet, ooh, man, that's exactly what we want to do. That's exactly what I like to do. When I have a really strong feeling and then start telling myself a really kind of compelling story about it that, there's nobody else in here questioning, what do I want to do? I want to believe it. I want to believe it.